G'day punters, welcome to the Mailbag Sydney preview show for the Spring Champion Stakes, amongst other races at what's a pretty jam-packed Randwick card. We're going to be previewing a number of the races, race 2 and then races 5 through 8. And who better to join me than our two guests, Mark Shean and Mark Rhoden. Mark Shean, I'll start with you. First, early thoughts on the Randwick card?
I suppose it depends on how the track plays. This meeting last year, they moved the rail to the same position and it was pretty much on pace throughout the day. I think maybe in the Spring Champion, they came off the speed a little bit, but in the shorter races, it certainly was. So we'll just have to try and ascertain throughout the day how the track could end up the same again. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I tend to agree at 6 metres for the bulk of the course, and that generally makes it hard to circle and win, especially in the shorter trips. As you mentioned, lanes 1 and 2 are by far the best statistically. You can make ground, but you'd rather be cutting the corner than coming out wide for sure.
Okay. Well, we'll start off in race 2, which is the Roman Consul Stakes, the Group 2 over 1,200 metres. And Wild Ruler, Doubtland, they're dominating the market with Montesira coming up from Victoria. I guess Doubtland won at Flemington last start as well. Mark Shean, I'll give you the new rock. Did you like anything in race 2 at all?
I'm going with Wild Ruler. I suppose he's a slight question mark at the 1,200, even though he's been placed behind Rothfire in Brisbane. But just thought he'd settle a little bit better this time in his trials and on race day. He still was a bit fizzy before he went out there at Rose Hill, but hoping that has knocked the edge off him a little bit. Doubtland was a decent win at Flemington. He got back and got into a bit of trouble, but it took a long time to get there. So I'm going with Wild Ruler in this race.
Okay. Mark Rhoden, there's a couple of different form lines, a couple of those Victorian form lines coming up as well. How do you assess those going into this race?
Yeah, it's an interesting race. From the Victorian form lines, the horse that interests me is Montesira, who the overall time wasn't sensational at Caulfield, but it was a real walking race for a 1,000-metre race. She was back in the field and over racing and was still able to reel off some pretty good sectionals to get there when she probably wasn't really entitled to. So it's the one I'm interested in of those that have been racing in Victoria. I'm still not... There was Sting out of the track the other day too, and I'm still not sure if Doubtland's a soft tracker or not. Certainly his very best run was that they took off down the middle on the heavy at Randwick last year. In the autumn, sorry. So that's just a little niggle for me, and I expect the track to be pretty firm. Both Rosehill and Randwick have been serving up pretty firm tracks of late, so that's a negative for me. Wild Ruler is my top pick, and he's about backable. I mean, I think Montesira is the value in the race. If Wild Ruler gets any better than this, I certainly won't want to be losing on him. I'd be backing him as well. But I'm going to risk Doubtland. I think that's the way I'm going to approach it.
Yeah, I tended to be quite similar here in terms of wanting to find Montesira. I just not exactly sure what they'll be doing with the map. I sort of was raffling Montesira, Doubtland, and on the lead as who takes that one out, one back spot, so to speak. But it could be a bit of a raffle early, and I think that will probably determine how the race unfolds. But Wild Ruler really can't fault what it's been doing so far, so it's probably just a race I'll just sit back and watch, I think. Race 5, the Stan Fox Stakes over 1,500, another Group 2. Speaking of races where the market's pretty much just been completely strangled by the top end, well, Peltzer's now favourite. Mamaragan has come out. He'll be racing in Melbourne. But Peltzer from Prime Star, Jet Propulsion, they're all vying for the top end of the market. Mark Rhoden, I'll start with you. How did you work the map out here outside of Jet Propulsion? Did you have it leading, and then how did you work out the rest of the field?
Well, no, I thought Peltzer would lead because that's the model that's worked for him best in the past. His 2 good wins over the autumn-winter were leading and trying to control, and I think in this small field out to 1,500, I think that's the approach they'll adopt. Obviously, it wasn't going to work in a race like the Golden Rose with a lot more speed in it, but I think they get their chance to do it here. I think if it was just a race to the first turn, he's a faster horse than just Jet Propulsion, so it's Peltzer's if he wants it. I'm Peltzer. We could be into afterthought territory now. He is certainly the class runner of the race, best lifetime figures. I was actually going to lean to Mamaragan against him if he'd gone this way, but he's come out. So that sort of robbed the race of betting interest for me. I'm not going to be too different from the market. Prime Star's an interesting runner who's been going really well in fast run sprint races, and now comes up to what will probably be a moderately run 1500 metre race. It'll be interesting to see if he can reproduce under those circumstances. Jet Propulsion, the improver. Not a lot for me to say about this, to be honest.
Mark Shean, what are you rating Peltzer in terms of your market?
Look, I think I've got him on top here because he's just down so significantly in class. I know you look at those runs in the Golden Rose and the Run to the Rose and you think they're disappointing, but you look back last year and Castelvecchio and Prince Farwaz were the same horses in that same position, and they came out and won group races after that. So I think they've just been fast run races. He's been run off his legs. He should be able to get control here, or at the very worst, be running second behind Jet Propulsion. And I think he will stand up on Saturday. So I've got him. With Mark, I think Prime Star's the main danger. He's paraded really well lately. He is jumping significantly in distance, but he is a horse who's very fit at the moment and does like the hard tracks.
Yep. I won't be adding anything further to that race, that's for sure. The Silver Eagles race 6. Over the 1300, and I guess all the interest here is in terms of the favourite, $1.85 for Alligator Blood. Mark Rhoden, what price do you have him assessed?
I've been a little bit hard on him and marked him $2.50.
Yep.
And that is really only because grand final day's in 3 weeks, and well, for me anyway, I don't want to be taking odds on when there's another race worth, I think, 15 times the money for him in 3 weeks' time, for which he is also favourite. So, look, I'm not saying, anything untoward's going to be happening or that he won't win, but I just don't want to be playing at that short a price under those circumstances.
Mark Shean, for yourself, do you have Alligator Blood leading this race, or do you think how Romantic will try and kick up, or perhaps maybe Chat?
Look, I don't think Chat will. I think Surreal Step and How Romantic will probably press forward early. Dawn Passage at the outside barrier, so they've got to make a decision what they're going to do there. Looks a bit skinny for me as well, Alligator Blood. Look, if I can get about 650 subpoenaed, she's race fit. She's got very good Randwick form. And I think there might be a bit of pressure up front here early just while they jostle for position. So I'm just going out away from the favourite and hoping for about 6-1 and 13-2 subpoenaed.
Yep. Mark Rhoden, did you end up having a suggested play in this race?
It's got to be around Alligator Blood. I wish, just dropping back 100 metres subpoenaed, I wish it wasn't doing that, it's slightly put me off, although I do have a second pick. Oh, I wonder if Ice Bath, jockey change, blinkers, barrier 1. I know Mark Shean won't be backing her, but I've been on yet this prep my day to chime in at double figure odds or whatever she is, and home she goes. I don't know. Oh. Look, I think the jockey change is good. I think the blinkers on is good. First time she's worn blinkers in 2 or 3 preps, I think. I think she's got a little chance. I don't like Dawn Passage from that gate and first up. The one I wanted to give a chance to is Flit, who just gave away far too big a start last time. But I think that might be the case again, even though she'll be closer in a smaller field. Like I said at the start, if she's going to have to make a run 3-4 wide around them, that could bring her undone. But could entertain Ice Bath here as a bet.
Yeah, I was just prepared to have a very small bet on How Romantic. Just trusting the stable more than anything. A lot of their horses that they're bringing up and racing at Randwick are typically going very well, and potentially, if it's instructed, if Jason Collett's given the all clear to try and lead this race and get a few cheap sections out in front, it might be able to surprise, because a lot of its figures have been very decent down in Victoria. I know it's bringing that stinky Melbourne form up, but it just might be able to surprise. So I was happy to have a small play there at the double figure quote. All right, race 7, the Spring Champion, 2,000 metres, the Group 1. Mark Shean, I'll give you the floor. Are you staying with a horse like Love Tap in this race? And I guess, how do you think they're going to ride him as well?
Look, I think they'll have to go forward from that barrier. I can't see a lot of pace in the race, to tell you the truth. Bucharest has got blinkers on and might roll forward, but there doesn't look to be a noted leader in the race. So I think he's going to have to punch up from the outside, depending on how well he jumps. make a bit of use of him and try and get across, and then try and look for cover or get some cheap sectionals. Look, I'm on it at the big odds in the futures, and was really happy when it drew 14. But anyway, what can you do about it? Look, Montefilia won well last week, but she's a lightly framed filly-in. She's the first time she's backing up in 7 days, but by the same token, that might be the right form line and barrier number 1. So if she has backed up from last week, and she'll tell us in the parade if she hasn't lightened off, I think she's probably the way to go.
Yep. Mark Rhoden, the top 2 in the market. How did you assess both of those?
Yeah, I think Love Tap either leads, or if you can find something to sit outside, maybe Lions Raw, who's won a very slow race last week, but might take it up. That would be better for him. I think it'd be perfect for him to be 1 out, 1 back, or 1 out, 2 back with a trail. That'd be the ideal setup for him, but he's not going to get it, but he's certainly right in the race. Now, Montefilia, who I sort of half found last week, faces a very different setup here. That was a fast run mile, totally unexpectedly fast run mile, but fast run nonetheless. And this, you can't see this being strongly run, even though everyone says, and I agree, that she's going to be better at 2,000. She's just going to be 3-4 back the fence or further back, barrier 1, moderate pace. It's a different sort of setup than, chasing down Hungry Heart off of fast speed last week. So she's a no as favourite for me at the moment. The one I think I've found is Cherry Tortoni, who isn't really bred to get 2,000 on either side from what I can see, but has been running good closing figures down in Melbourne in pretty good races, finding the line well, and gets a good run from 4. And he's a bit better priced than the other ones. So he might be the way I go there. There are a few roughies I was trying to find, like Alvarado, Favreau, even Wertheimer. But they all seem to map poorly. They're going to be back and wide, and they might have upside, but they are going to have to do it the hard way against their big odds. But if you wanted to spec any of them, I wouldn't talk you out of it, but they are going to have the job ahead of them. I think maybe for me is Cherry Tortoni.
Yep. I'm going to stick with Love Tap purely just on the basis of the map more than anything. Ideally get the slightly better price, I would imagine, closer towards jump time. And I'm going to have a silly sort of place bet on Socrates. I thought the horse improved a lot with the blinkers on last start, and thought they were trying to ride it with more intent. It was still a little bit slow away, so that's a slight concern. But if they do ride it with a bit of intent here, it may very well lob in a nice spot midfield, and thought there's probably worse bets to have at $9 a place or so you can get at the moment. More than happy to have something on that. So that's the plan of attack there in the Spring Champion. Race 8 is the Angst Stakes, Group 3, 1,600 for the mares. Mark Shean, there's a couple of horses here that you've been following throughout the preparation. Are you sticking with any of those?
I'm going to give Nudge another go. She's got blinkers on for the first time, so definitely going to have something on her. She came out of the race with Scarlet Dream the other day. Now, Riadini and Look Like Elvis, they're in 3rd and 5th in the Epsom. They came out of that race, and that to me looks like a pretty good form race coming into a mares race like this. Admittedly, both of them will get back somewhat, particularly Scarlet Dream. Hopefully she won't get too far back from barrier number 2. Her sectional the other day, 33.2 for her last 600 metres. Admittedly a bigger field here, and might be an awkward draw from the inside for her because she's a sort of horse who likes to wind up. But I'm going to back Nudge and save on Scarlet Dream, and obviously Positive Peace and Asiago are chances as well. Of course, they'll posse up near the speed, but just going a little bit wide of the favourites here.
Mark Rhoden, for yourself in race 8?
I think I'll end up with Positive Peace. She really announced herself 3rd up last prep. She had been winning, but she came out and won by about 7 in a midweek meeting, and that was sort of the win that put her into a new level. She's been ticking over okay. She had no luck last time and found the line really well, and I expect up to 1,600 she'll be, if not leading, outside Graceful Glamour. So I think she should get her chance. I thought Asiago was a bit short. It found itself in the right part of the track when it won first up at Wyong, and I don't think any of its form either side of that is good enough to justify its current quote. I do think there are plenty of other chances away from Positive Peace, however. in no particular order, I would mention Emeralds, Nudge, Scarlet Dream, and Graceful Glamour.
Yep.
And if I think I'll make my main bet on Positive Peace, and if I can get, around the $10 plus mark, any of those four I just mentioned, I'll be trying not to lose on them. Yeah,
I'm basically with you both here. Positive Peace for me, main play, just again purely based on the map. Agree with the form lines of Asiago. That's looking a little bit iffy for mine. And the horses I'll be trying to save on, just obviously judging how the day's going. But if they're making ground, I'll make them more of a positive win. And that Scarlet Dream and Nudge, I think it was pretty difficult to ignore both of those horses last start. Ran some really good splits going through the lines, so I have to respect both of those if they get the right run. But main play, Positive Peace there. And I'll nominate that as one of my stronger plays on the day. Mark, Shean, for you, do you have a best bet or a value bet or a lay or anything like that on the card?
I'm not overly fussed on Dawn Passage and Human Nature in the last. I'm going to lay both of those. I thought Quintessa would be hard to beat in race number 4, but it looks a bit of a tricky day, but fingers crossed we can get away with something.
Yep. Mark Rhoden, for yourself?
Yeah, it could be a tricky day. There's quite a different number of ways you could go in a lot of races, but that'll make it interesting. I might make my best in the highway, which might mean it's the last time I'm asked back. But Temple 1 drew a shocking barrier with the Apprentice on last time and was about 5 wide the entire.
Yeah.
Tommy Berry hops on from 8. I think it lobs outside lead and can turn the tables on those. I think it's a mare, met last time anyway, and it's backable odds. So, yeah, don't like to do this in highways too often, but Temple 1 for me.
All right, very good. Thank you to you both. Enjoy the weekend. All the best on the punt. We'll join on Monday to review the Spring Champion meeting.
All right, look forward to it.